What if you could build a real estate business that thrives in any market without relying on cold calls or chasing new leads? What if your deal flow was powered by trust, referrals, and a deep understanding of market psychology, ensuring long-term success regardless of the industry shifts? Tom Storey, founder of the Storey team and Royal LePage Signature Realty, has done just that. As one of Canada's top 1% real estate professionals, Tom has mastered the art of consistent deal flow, client retention, and navigating economic cycles with precision. With a business built on repeat clients and strategic positioning, he has redefined what it means to be a high-performing agent in today's competitive landscape. In this episode, Tom breaks down the mindset, systems, and future trends shaping today's real estate industry. From adapting to shifting market conditions to leveraging AI and automation, he reveals what agents must do now to stay ahead of the curve. Whether you're a seasoned professional aiming for sustainable growth, Tom's insights will provide a roadmap for long-term success. Okay, welcome to Broker's Playbook podcast. Nice to see everyone once more. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Tom Storey of the Storey team and Royal LePage Signature. We are going to be touching on quite a few items in Tom's story and his ongoing, very interesting and different value proposition in the marketplace. And I want to get started right off the hopper, my man.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited.
It's my absolute pleasure. For those who don't know who you are, don't know if there's many in the business that don't know who you are at this point, but for those who don't, give me a little bit of your background, how you got started.
Yep.
I mean, we can say how old you are.
I'm 33 now.
He's still under 35.
Yeah, I got a few more years.
I want to talk about the under 35. Take me from the beginning.
So 22 years old, graduated from the University of Guelph with a degree in sociology, which didn't leave me many options. I decided I'm gonna do this. Started taking my license, worked for a realtor for 6 months when I wasn't licensed.
I'm already going to stop you.
Yeah, go for it.
Why sociology, and what made you look at real estate at 22?
So my mom was always in sales. She had her own business, but it was never real estate until recently. And we can touch on that if you want.
Sure.
So I watched her grow up and take us out of daycare so we could be home with her because she ran her own business. And that was really interesting to me. And sociology is just like understanding people. So that's why I took that. And then when I was 22, kind of the mindset was like, if I try this and it doesn't work, it's okay. I'll be 25 and I'll go figure out something else. But then it started working. And then you start getting in rooms with people that are doing it at bigger levels. And you're like, wait, are they smarter than me? Sometimes the answer is yes, but not always. You're like, well, what are they doing that's working? And is it just years in the business? Do they know something that I don't? So that kind of got me pretty excited. And
the answer is yes. They are doing things that you're not doing, and they
100%.
are doing things that you don't know.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you don't know.
100%.
So that's what I'm looking to crack with you today, because I think your story is different. I got into real estate when I was 27 without having the luxury of being 22, meaning I actually think 22 is a very interesting age. So is 27. It's actually even funner because you're against the ropes. Whatever decisions you make are going to be pivotal in your future.
Yeah.
22, when I had graduated from accounting and financial management at Ryerson, and I went to work for the banking system, I felt that, like, what do? I have to make a decision. I have to commit to something. But at 27, I knew that whatever I chose, like, I'm going to be burning spent time at that point.
Yeah.
Because you met your significant other, all the different things. What I want people to understand is the risk you took in your background, which you ultimately said, well, I have 3 years to burn without consequence.
Yep.
What did you do in those 3 years?
Yeah. So the first 6 months, I remember this very clearly because I remember looking at my bank account and being like, how long does this work? I started as 22. So when you're 22, you're naive, which is helpful actually, by the way, looking back. Your friends can't afford to buy real estate yet. The only people you know that own real estate is your friend's parents. And I've said this many times, but like you're the kid that used to drink at their basement. So it's like, it's tough to get that listing, right? So it's like, what do you do? So I was running ads on Kijiji to meet people to lease properties. So my entire business that first year, I remember I had about 6 months in, I had made $10,000. Now, when you're living with your parents, it's okay. But I'm like, I don't know, like this isn't going to work, right? And I had one buyer. I thought I had a buyer. That's probably a better way to put it. And I remember I got out of the shower one morning, 6 months in, and I just got a text on my phone. And it was like, hey, Tom, you know, blah, blah, blah. We went to an open house and we ended up just buying it with the agent. And I remember sitting there being like, shit, I got nothing.
Thanks.
Like, this isn't going to work. I remember I didn't cry, but I was like, I don't know. Like something needs to change.
You didn't feel very good.
No, I thought like this is going to last maybe another few months and then I'm going to have to go do something else.
And what clicked?
I think what it clicked is actually nearing the end of my first year, I went to a real estate conference and sat at the very back and didn't interact with anybody and just watched.
What conference?
Richard Robbins. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm
a big fan of Richard Robbins around here.
Amazing. I've been coaching with them for almost 10 years. Right. And I remember sitting there watching people on stage. And that was when that first light bulb went off. And it was like, okay, they know way more than I know. They've also been doing it longer than me, but they're just doing specific things that are getting themselves results. And that's where it kind of changed. Where like, you know, when you start anything, you're just excited to have opportunity. I drove to Hamilton to show a $200,000 condo.
Yes,
my first year, which I did not sell, by the way, but I very much made that drive.
So I'll take away some of the mystery of where I'm going with this because I need to get your opinion on market trends, etc. So for those who don't know the full story, it's funny. The full Tom Storey story. Tom has been in the chairman's league of performance within our organization, Royal LePage, because I happen to be a Royal LePager as well. Chairman represents the top 1 percentile, which to qualify, you need to be in the hundreds of transactions per year or a specific volume. But at the end of the day, you've been there for a hot minute. I met
6 years now.
6 years. Did I meet you at your first chairman's event in Lisbon?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I remember sitting on the back of the bus with you.
So that was the first one I attended.
Yeah.
Not my first year in chairman's, but it was the first one I attended, and that was your first.
Yep.
And for me, knowing, because I'm now 19 years in business, I started when I was 27, and I'm turning 45 in a minute. But watching you in the top 35, under 35 for more than a decade is just weird. Like, it's like, how is this kid not getting older, or did he start when he was 10? So it's impressive.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And it's actually inspirational to people above your age as well, because I didn't make top 35 under 35. I was busy. I was making money. I was doing the things, but not the way you did it. And you didn't do things the way I did. Yeah. I want to ask you how you look at the market today. The reason I prefaced your success is because I want people to pay attention to your insight. And although you're 33, you're now almost a decade in, or sorry, over a decade in, which is, I don't know, probably in the top 10 percentile of retention, to being able to stay in the business. So because the failure in this business, the failure rate, because I'm not going to call it anything but that, you can't make it long enough and you're out. It's a real thing, and we've seen a mass exodus.
Yeah.
So the people who are listening right now need, in my opinion, to listen to what you have to say. I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me what your view of the market is right now.
I think I would actually put it into 4 different categories. Sure. You've got the resale condo market, which there's a lot to choose from. If you look at percentage of what's actually selling, the 2 beds are doing pretty well. 1 beds, bachelors, there's not a lot of activity going on. And it's just pricing is the number one thing to be able to sell.
Broker's Playbook being of national scope.
Yep.
And not just urban markets. I will make another disclosure. Tom is an extremely high performer in the biggest urban market in the country, Toronto's downtown core. So a lot of his insight is based on the current state of that market. Get back into where you were talking about the different.
Yeah. So I also think condos are important because you think about who buys a condo, and you got first-time home buyers, you got investors, or at least you used to have investors. They'll come back at some point here.
Of course they will.
You got downsizers, and then you got the luxury market. So it kind of covers the whole scope of the market, where houses, it's like, well, you need $1 million, right? So the first part of the market is resale condos. Generally, it's a buyer's market, depending on what type of property that you have. But, like I'm selling condos in 2025 for the same price I would have sold them at end of 2019. That's interesting. Now, they've gone up and down several times there, but they're back kind of to where they were just before the pandemic happened. Then you've got the freehold market. If you really want to break it down, like I've never seen such a difference between the two markets, where the condo market is slow and favoring the buyers, but then the resale market, like
It's non-existent. There's no.
Every semi-detached home that has sold in the city of Toronto this year has sold over the asking price on average. Like that's weird, right? When there's like thousands of condos that are way cheaper.
When the delta is so significant.
Well, that's also the big thing. If you go to February 2020 and you look at the average condo in the city of Toronto versus the average detached home, so it's a big spread. It used to be $700,000 difference. Today it's $1 million. 30% growth in the last 5 years
For low rise.
Yep.
Or 30% decline in the condo.
It's really just condos stayed the same and houses went up. That's basically what happened.
So there's a couple things to unpack there, and one of them is not very visible or easy to recognize. You made a point that in 2019, so the price point of 2019 and the price point today are very similar.
For the resale market per square
condo.
foot. Yeah.
The big difference, though, is the cost to build in 2019 and the cost to build today are two very, very different numbers. So the paradox that gets created out of something like this and the consequences that are going to be lasting, because this is going to leave scars on the market.
Oh, yeah.
It has left scars already, but I don't think it's complete. I don't think it's done. The pain train is still rolling through. And so my insight for 2025, with a record number of completions still coming. So all those sales that created banner years in Canadian real estate during 2020 and 2021 are coming to market now. And we're talking about 25,000 to 30,000 doors that are going to be passing keys.
You know what's interesting too is I don't even think those sales counted in the Korean numbers because they weren't on MLS. Did they count?
No, they did not.
So it's like that's just adding on to the banner years we had.
So that is adding on to the banner years, but the inventory
is coming
now to an existing glut.
Yeah.
What that has created is the last 2 years, we have seen no launches of new projects. A, because they can't get sold in the current high interest market. Not because people didn't want to buy, but because they can't qualify.
Right.
Qualifying at 7 plus 2 on an $800,000 condo is just not going to happen for the first time home buyer.
Yeah.
Which has resulted in this now influx of inventory, 6 to 7 months absorption. That is going to leave the scars that we talked about. How long do you believe it's going to take to absorb this inventory before we see the stabilization? Because I don't think we're going to see further price reductions, but I do think we're going to see a glut, kind of stagnant inventory for the next 6 to 9 months. Where do you put it?
Yeah. So for resale condos that are on the market right now or coming to the market that are completed, I think realistically, like best case scenario in my mind would be like early 2027 is when you see some light and you're like, oh, inventory.
Early 2027.
Yeah. Not that prices are going to drop like crazy. Like I think the biggest, condo prices are down 14 to 18% from the peak, which makes sense.
February 2022.
But if you look forward here, it's like what I see right now is like when we talk about months of inventory, it's like such a wonderful statistic to try to figure out what's going on, but it only matters if it stays for a period of time. So when there's 7 months of inventory and it's a buyer's market and 1 of 7 listings are actually finding a buyer every month, which is roughly 12 to 14% success rate.
That's right.
If that only lasts for a month and the next month is at 2, it's like, it doesn't matter. But it's been lasting now
We're going on a year.
For a period of time. We've been sitting in a buyer's market for a long, long time. So I think and if you look at what's for sale percentage wise, just right now, like as of recording this today, the city of Toronto, we have like 8,500 listings on the market, not GTA, but 416.
Yeah.
70% of them are condo ownership. So it's like, we do not have a house inventory problem. We have condo problem. Like it's totally two different markets. And if you look at what's for sale for condos right now, even what's for sale, only 30% of condos for sale in the city of Toronto, which represents 70% of all the listings, is an owner living in their condo selling it. So that just shows you it's so influenced by investors. Investors are influenced by interest rates and rental prices, which, going back to what I was saying before, you've got your resale condos, your freehold properties, the rental market, and then the new construction market. Like that's how it would separate in terms
100%.
of what's going on, right? So I think for resale condos, I think 2027 is when you could start seeing a little bit of price growth again in like a meaningful way. I think it's going to take another 18 months for things to kind of figure themselves out. And sellers on the market now have to decide, am I going to adjust my price to sell, or am I going to have to take it off the market?
What do you feel is the consequence of no launching, no building? I saw numbers last year at the land conference that were beyond alarming. The land conference, kudos to that organization, is due next month. It's coming back. And if you haven't attended, I would tell you to attend, because the insight, it's for the development community, but it gives tremendous insight to people who make a living off the downtown core.
Yeah.
The stat there was, with new launches and projects moving forward, at that point, 2 years in, at this point, it's going to be 3.
Yep.
Hard to believe that February 2022 was 3 years ago, but that's a long time.
Yeah.
So at this point, with another year in the books, they're estimating that we're going from 30,000 units delivered this year to cutting that in half next year, to the following year being 6,000. Yeah. So 2027, the one that you just earmarked.
Yep.
Only 7,000 new units are going to be available to over 7 million people. New.
Yeah.
The following year is something that I don't even want to talk about, because the number is 3,000.
Yeah.
And you can't fix that now.
Yeah. I think it's very clear. Like,
but if a magic wand appeared and we waved it and we fixed everything, you still cannot do anything to fix that, because the development process,
can't build fast enough,
construction, and all the things you don't control. Either there's a magic wand. Bricks have to be laid.
It's like, we can't ever have a stable Toronto housing market. We have to have extremes on every direction. And we're going through an extreme buyer's market for condos right now. And like, of the almost 7 months of condo inventory available right now, we're adding 30,000 units this year, plus what's coming next year. That's why I think like we're not going to get growth in the next 18 months. I think realistically, like best case, maybe end of 26, early 27. But then the new construction market, that's going to be the next thing, is like, for the new construction market to come back, it has to make sense for developers to launch and for purchasers to purchase, right?
Everybody has to pencil.
That's it, right?
So,
and you need to have some percentage of that being investors, or the project's just not going to sell out. So it's like, for the pre-con prices to make sense again for buyers, the resale market at some point has to jump up a bit, but it's where it was in 2019. So I think that's going to be the first move. But if resale gets back to 1150 a square foot for like, good buildings, I can see pre-con selling at 14-ish again.
I personally believe that by 2030, we're probably going to be at 1,900 to 2,000.
For new launches?
For new launches,
right?
Because of scarcity. And I believe that resale might be at 1,700 to 1,800 in the same breath because of absorption.
What do you think for the people that paid 1,400 to 1,600 new construction in 2022 that are being delivered this year? How long do you think they have to wait to get that value back?
I would personally, depending on the circumstances, because I coach thousands of our own clients through this, depending on when you bought, so the price you paid versus today's market, I peg the pain train, you said 18 months, I believe the same before there's any meaningful recovery. If you're, this is an answer that can only be questioned by personal circumstances and income. If you can afford to burn up to 20 grand a year in negative cash flow.
Right.
Call that $1,500 a month, $1,700 a month. If you're in the $500-$600 a month burn rate, I would tell you to for sure hang tight.
Yeah.
Because when appreciation comes back, and I'm not talking about gambling.
Yep.
I'm talking about for sure a cycle is upcoming because there has no choice. There will be no inventory.
Yeah.
We're a big city. So it's not a matter of if it's going to come, it's when. And in order to not give advice to make people gamble, if the burn is too much to handle, just get the hell out. It's money. You will recover.
Yeah.
No matter what, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
So know when to stop. And if you have questions surrounding that, I mean, we're always available to any of our brothers and sisters in the business on coaching them how to speak to their clients about things just like this. We train them on these things.
Yep.
So for anybody listening, if you have clients who are literally suffering and can't sleep at night because of this and you don't know how to handle it, reach out. We might have a few ideas that can help. Thank you for talking about the market. I think it's important.
Yeah.
And I think we highlighted that low rise is not only not suffering, it's going to continue to thrive for certain.
But
They're
not building it. It doesn't exist.
And infill opportunities are going to start showing their...
But that's one-offs, right?
For sure. With that being said, my next segment here is surrounding our business. So you just told us straight up, and I completely agree, that the market is not going to be getting any rosier for the next at least 18 months. If we were to take that to be true, how have you built one of the most successful businesses in the country?
Yep.
And what are the key components that make your team operate efficiently? The reason I'm reading it off here is because I know so much about you, but I want you to touch on these specific items.
Okay.
So how are you continuing to build on your success given the market is so negative?
Yep. So right now in 2025, what we're trying to understand is where do the opportunities exist in the market? You can complain that sales volume is low. You can say, I don't want another condo listing because these things don't even sell. Or you can look at the actual data and understand where is there opportunity to actually for money to be made. And if you're going to spend your time working your ass off in a much more difficult market, it should make sense, right? You shouldn't just 100%. Be saying yes to everything. So I can give you some examples. What I know right now, and we had talked about this previously, I know that semi-detached homes in the city of Toronto have no problem selling. So maybe if I know that, I create marketing efforts and talk to people.
Shift your focus.
About semi-detached homes because I want those listing because I know those sell. You can still do offer dates and there are, a Leslieville semi is going to get 6 offers in a bad market, right? I know that exists. What I also know is that there is a lot of condo inventory on the market right now. And there are a lot of potential first-time home buyers that used to be paying rent and the cost of ownership was so much higher. It is still higher, even if you have the down payment, but it's getting a lot closer than it used to be.
That's right.
So I know right now I want semi-detached home listings. I want first-time condo buyers because there is a ton to show them.
And users.
And end users that are going to live there because it makes sense for them now and it hasn't made sense in a long time. And they're buying a condo in 2025 at a 2019 price. Yes, it's not a 2019 interest rate, but it's not a 6 in front of it anymore. It's a 4 or high 3 depending on your down payment. So I'm looking at that, but making it very clear to those purchasers, what we've talked about today, you can't buy a condo and expect it to go up in value in the next 2 years. Like I'm not promising that to anybody. 5-year perspective.
Well, you're actually advising that that is not going to be the case.
It doesn't make sense. No, you should not do that if you expect that, right?
Unless you're going to live in it.
Yep.
Buying a condo as an investment right this second does not make sense in this market.
No, not at this moment in time.
Right.
It might make sense in 5 years. It might look great, but I can't promise you that's going to happen.
Well, that's gambling.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the first 2 that I would look at. And then the third one is actually interesting. And I stumbled upon this by accident. We had a few older condo big floor plan listings last year that in any other market I've been a part of are tough sells.
Yes,
maintenance fees are high. It's an older demographic.
For the first time, it's not.
It's the easiest sell because the person buying it is a downsizer who does not need a mortgage, so they're not impacted by interest rates. And there's not a ton of good options to choose from.
And the carrying cost makes sense because everything's included typically in those condo quotes.
In the maintenance fee. So like we had 2 at the end of last year And between these two condos, one was 1,800 square feet, one was 1,550. Both like needed renos, like not,
But they're legendary floor plans.
Eight
They're fun.
offers total between those two properties.
Did you have any sunken living rooms?
Yeah, there was actually. Yeah, in the one it did go down from the kitchen.
Floors, of course.
Yeah,
that was a big thing back in the 80s.
So it's interesting, right? It's like what used to be, you would call it like a career listing because it's going to take you like a year to sell it, is now a massive opportunity. So basically, what I would say to any business owner, understand in your market, we can complain about what's not happening. Well, what's happening? Can you get yourself involved, have conversation, or if you know this, can you make content around this to attract the type of people that will transact in that segment?
So let's go back to that. When did you realize the opportunity in, for example, semis?
Yeah.
And what were the action steps you took to shift your focus and create opportunity?
Okay, so I mean, I realized it because I was a buyer for that type of property. So I bought one. I saw that there was multiple bids on everything that I was interested in, and this was end of 2022. When the froth had come off the stupidness, but things were still, other things weren't moving, but like prime properties.
When people still thought it was a 6-month problem.
Exactly. Right. And most of the big price decreases did come off in the first 6 months, but then it's just kind of gone like this since then. So I noticed that, and I realized that all the people I sold condos to 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, when they're reaching out to me now, every single one goes, I want to sell my condo and I want to buy this. I'm like, okay, so the demand exists here.
Well, all of you are in the same age bracket typically, meaning that the family, it's me, my partner, plus one or plus two. They need to.
Yeah. So we started having these conversations with our condo owners saying like, hey, what does the next goal look like? Every single one was like, well, this is my price point. I'm like, okay, well, that price point means this. And then, so what we actually did on a content side of it, I made this video on our YouTube channel. It's like the 5 areas everyone in Toronto wants to live, and then in brackets, but where they actually end up.
Interesting.
So it's like we noticed.
I haven't seen that. I'd love to see
So
it.
all of our condo sellers that wanted to become home buyers, they would say either want to live in, if it was north, it was like, Yonge and Egg, Yonge and Lawrence. Right? If it was east, they'll go, I want to buy a Leslieville semi. I'm like, great, everyone does. Let's get in line, right? Or they want to go beaches, or they want to go Roncy West or High Park. Everyone starts with those 5.
Of course.
Like I'm not putting Rosedale, Forest Hill in here because it's just a different price point, right?
That's not normal.
Yeah. These are like the realistic areas. And then what we've noticed is we start in those areas, then where do they actually end up buying? So you want beaches, but you don't have that budget, you go to Upper Beaches.
That's right.
Right? You want Leslieville, but you want a little bit more space for a little bit better value, let's go to Danforth. Right? You want High Park, let's go to Junction. Right? Like so I made a video showing here's what everyone tells me they want, and here's the 2 alternatives for each area where they actually end up. So we created a ton of business because people were reaching out being like, yes.
I'm laughing in my head because maybe things haven't changed at all ever since the beginning of time.
Right.
Because in 2004, when I was 24, I wanted to buy my first house, and being the Greek that I am, living in Greektown like I did, I thought I'd stay in East York. And I thought of the beautiful little streets that I had in my mind. Where did I end up is the question.
Right.
And I ended up in the very first postal code of Scarborough at Danforth and Victoria Park.
Yep.
Because $300,000 is the stretch that I could make at the time. And that's where I bought, because everything where I wanted to be was $450.
Right.
And the interest rates, which at the time looked like I stole the bank at 5.25%, allowed me for the first postal code of Scarborough.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting that you mentioned that.
So that's the one thing we did for that segment of the market. I mean, the condo buyers kind of naturally come to us anyways because the market share that we have in there. But then for the larger condos, I was strategic about that as well. We started farming older buildings on purpose, which I had never done before. Because even though the turnover is lower, when they come up, they sell pretty quick. And we made a specific video on old condos versus new condos, showing the highlights, the pros and cons, and got business from that video because we made it clear, like, we understand both. And here's why older buildings might actually be like the better opportunity in today's market.
Very interesting. Well, what I can tell you is that Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, Calgary, in a sense as well, all share the same urban pain of different price points and different asset classes doing better than others. Very, very difficult to navigate as a overall residential agent.
Yeah.
meaning that if for the last 5 years you've just been kind of living off your phone, servicing all the areas, all asset classes, always saying yes, you don't have that deep insight into one asset class. In finishing up and wrapping up the regular segment of this episode, because we're going to take a break and go to the extended community version. Our community has questions, specific questions for you. But in wrapping up the regular podcast, what advice do you have to our brothers and sisters nationwide? I don't care what market they're in. I don't care if they sell farms or if they sell condos. How do you prepare yourself mentally every day? What advice can you give on mental state, waking up in the morning, get going? What things do you do? Give me something. Give our audience something from Tom as to how you rile yourself up every day, day after day.
The biggest change for me was the understanding that it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do if nobody knows. You can be amazing.
Need a secret agent.
Yeah, like it's just a waste. You can be amazing, but if you truly believe you're good at what you do, and you really deep down, like you understand the market, your clients like you, you do a really good job. You are doing your clients a disservice by not understanding how to get really good at marketing. You're allowing them to maybe have a crappy experience with somebody else because they didn't know you existed. That's on you.
That's not enough. So we're going to extend by 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Tell me what you mean by that.
So my whole thing's always been like, I believe deep down I'm the right option. Like I recently, actually yesterday, I didn't get a listing. And I was looking at the email and it was prefaced with like, the other agents marketing, whatever. I'm like, okay, well, what verbiage did they use to make this person believe they were doing something actually different than me? Because I've sold more condos in that building than anybody else. Like there was something that happened there. And now this is good. That woke me up. And I was like, okay, I got to change the wording.
I did not have this in the bag.
Yeah, I got to change the wording that I use because it didn't work on this one for whatever reason. We're like, I really believe I would have been the better choice. Not egotistical, but like I'm confident in it. So if you believe that you're the best option, but you have to believe it. If you're kind of shaky on your belief, no one else is going to buy what you're saying.
Where do you draw the confidence? So this is where I was going.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of us, and I mean a lot of us, because I have a large team, I speak to my agents, I know where their head is at. It's not nice. Most of them are not well.
Yeah.
Like they're burnt from defeats.
Yep.
There's only so many L's you can take. Not everybody's built to take this many defeats for this long. So it's a tough market. How do you prepare yourself? So this happened to you. What steps are you taking to make sure that it does not happen tomorrow?
I'll tell you, for this specific one, I went into my office the next day and looked at my assistant. I said, we need to make a hardcover, super sexy book that I leave behind that shows all of our marketing. I'm going to take the 10 most beautiful properties I've sold over the last 10 years and put a case study on all of them and leave that behind with them because there's something in their imagination that made them think somebody else was a better option where I know I was.
Where did you get that idea?
Just the fact that like I didn't leave anything behind and their imagination took over. Like you can't allow people to assume what you are going to do. And I think when you're on a good run, we're like, I'm not competing that often in listing presentations because people are finding me online and being like, I know who you are. Let's do this. Or it's referral business.
But that goes back to what you were saying. You cannot not be loud about it. You have to be loud about it.
You have to be loud about it. You have to go in, you have to have confidence. And my confidence comes from, I truly believe I fundamentally understand the market as good as anybody else. So that when I'm giving clients advice, it's truly not based on a gut feeling. It's like, everybody likes to comment on the real estate market, but most of the people that comment on it, that have the biggest profiles to the consumers, are not actually very active in it. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's lots of hockey coaches that never played the game that can see it in a different, like that's
of
fine.
Course.
But I have a unique advantage of like, not only do I understand the numbers fundamentally, but I'm also active. So the data is last month, but here's the conversations I've been having with my buyers and sellers right now that are going to show up in the data in the next 2 to 3 months. So it's a mix of being active in the market, but fully understanding what the numbers mean.
So my final words for this episode with you, Tom, to our entire audience is not only do you need to keep your head up, you need to keep, if it's not going to be up talking to people, it needs to be deep diving into data that you can take and bring value to your actual audience, your consumer, your client. There has never been a time in my career, in the 19 years that I've been in this game, that skill-based sales and marketing has been the only option right now. I pity the agent that has to compete against me in anything for that matter, because like I'm at the point right now where all of us need the transactions and need to convert the opportunities. So if me and you had to compete, I am telling you 100% that there would be no stone left unturned, and I would do everything I can do in that listing presentation to make sure your appointment is canceled. Let alone, am I the better man? I'm going to look to close in the meeting based on true value and data, with no opportunity given or no thought given to anyone else. And I know you would do the same. You're going in and you're now leaving something behind because you can't afford that person thinking of Simeon when you leave.
Right.
They need to be thinking, Tom, look at this house. Look at what he did. And that's the right approach.
Well, think about everything we do in our business leads us to that moment. Sitting at the kitchen table with a seller, or having the buyer to your office, whatever. Literally everything we've ever talked about
is for this reason.
Leads to that moment. You better be really damn good at that presentation, or else you're wasting everybody's time.
Guys and girls of real estate in this wonderful country we call home, I hope this message and this show today brought some value to you. I know that I feel pumped right now on all the items that you discussed. And I'm very excited for the extended version that lives inside the Brokers Playbook community. We're going to be answering questions on AI, automation, and systems in kind of the future of where that's all going. But I'm be signing off for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for always tuning in. We know you could be anywhere, but you're right here. You're appreciated. Thank you.